Story 1. When I realized I was more myself when they were not around, it took me a while to admit it. Once I did, there was no unseeing it. Story 2. 8.5-year relationship. He said something that made me cry, and I am not a crier. Then he turned to face me and said, "You know, when you cry, it does nothing to me." I can still feel the bitterness of that moment 10 years later. Story 3. I think for me, when hope turns to complacency, when you do not even let yourself hold onto the possibility of change or progress but accept or expect something less that defies your own needs or expectations. Story 4. When my therapist challenged me to wake up every day and ask myself what I wanted from that day, then from the week, then the year, and so on, I realized I had compromised my entire sense of self to placate someone who treated me poorly. I wanted to fulfill my modest and achievable dreams, but I couldn't do that while being held back by someone who, no matter how hard I tried or how much I sacrificed, still treated me with utter disrespect. Story 5. During an argument, I had a flash-forward vision of the future and saw us living in a messy house, both working full-time jobs, with me still doing 95% of the housework and becoming extremely burnt out, resentful, and depressed. That was my mind showing me that nothing would change. Story 6. Waking up one day and realizing I was on track to become one of those middle-aged couples who sleep in separate beds, using uninteresting small talk to break the silence created by boredom, and staying together for the sake of not dying alone. Intimacy felt forced and uncanny, making my skin crawl. We hadn't even reached 30 yet, but the thought of living life together like that terrified me. Story 7. The most disappointing, bloated, sweaty, non-arousing, and brief 2-minute sexual experience I have ever had. Story 8. I did not want my daughter to be treated the way I was, and I did not want my sons to treat a woman the way I was treated. Story 9. My boyfriend and I lived together. Every month he would pay the rent, and I transferred my share to his account. Then, I received a message from our landlord that our rent had not been paid for 4 months. My boyfriend had money troubles and had not paid it. Not even the 50% share that I sent him, which should have covered 2 of the 4 months. His excuse for not telling me was that he was afraid of my reaction. I have never given him any reason to be afraid of my reaction. I am very rational. I prefer to set emotions aside and discuss problems calmly. It was unbelievable. On top of that, I had been spending a little extra on a few nice things because I thought, my rent and bills are paid, so let me splurge a bit. But it turned out my rent was not paid. The worst part for me, coming from a poor family, was how humiliating it was to have my rent late, as I had always taken great care to ensure that never happened. My boyfriend, from a wealthy family, didn't see it as a big deal. Instead of taking responsibility, fixing his finances, and working harder, he just asked his mother to pay the missing share. That was it. Story 10. My mom asked me if I was actually happy and realized that I was very miserable. I then found messages where he had been messaging people for sex, and I used it as my way out. I was very angry because I had been isolated so badly that I was a shell of myself. I couldn't have any friends because there was a possibility in his mind that I would cheat. I am now openly queer. I couldn't be around him because he was a raging homophobe, and I couldn't be happier. Story 11. She was using my car. She then let someone else use it without telling me. He got a speeding ticket. 3 weeks later, he and 2 other people robbed a pawn shop. They stole $30,000 worth of merchandise and 70 guns. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives agents do not like it when 70 guns hit the streets. They started investigating, and the speeding ticket attached to my car came up. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives brought me in and interrogated me. You never want to be questioned by the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. They are like a dictator's secret police. As soon as we were done, I broke it off with her that same day. Story 12. We were having lunch with his colleague after going to the gym. His colleague was talking about how unmotivated he was feeling and clearly showing signs of depression. My then fiancé grabbed my hand and, while looking at me, very enthusiastically told him that he should try to put himself out there on online dating apps and find a woman who could support him and improve his life. I just looked at him with a blank stare. as it hit me that I had been encouraging him for years to take care of his depression and physical health, but he had done nothing to work on it. I am not a nagger. I looked at him and felt nothing. Our relationship had not been great for a while, but those words killed whatever romantic love I had left for him. We broke up a few weeks later, but not before he had made an appointment with a psychiatrist as a last-ditch effort to save the relationship. Story 13. She hit me on numerous occasions, threw my dog out of the house off leash several times, threatened me with knives and blunt objects repeatedly, demeaned me regularly, sent revenge pornography to my coworkers, tried to get me fired and destroy my reputation, threatened to make false legal allegations against me, and would not even let me sleep more than a few hours at a time. Every once in a while, I needed to walk away from the relationship for a few days to retain my sanity, and then she would be with other people just to hurt me. I endured it all. But in the end, I was just tired. Story 14. In the past, he said Patricia Arquette was prettier than me, but only after a couple of trial breakups and getting back together, the relationship had exhausted itself. He said this to me one night, and I was having none of it. I thought I would regret it, or maybe he would try to apologize because it was not the worst thing to happen, and a reasonable person would get over it. However, I just felt better not being together anymore. It was not easy. I thought I would not have feelings for anyone else and that I would always miss him. Now I wish I had left sooner. Story 15. He was fighting with my brother, and it occurred to me that he was very arrogant and uptight. I could not unsee it. The way he reacted after I ended the relationship reassured me in my decision. He was really immature and hateful. Story 16. I did not want to be with someone who would physically assault me. All it took was one bad night for me to realize that I did not want to stay for 1 second more. It has been almost 1 year since that night, and I am happier now. Story 17. Actually, it was nothing that she did wrong. She was great. We were aiming at marriage and had been going for a while. I just came to the realization that I wasn't excited about living the rest of my life with her. It felt fine and like it would work, but I realized I wasn't excited about it, and I hadn't been for a while. I felt like I was trying to convince myself that this was the best thing for me, but never being able to do so. So I broke it off. She didn't take it well, and honestly, rightfully so. She didn't deserve that. She is a great person. I was sorry it had come to that. I am with another girl now who makes me so excited to live life, so it worked out for me. I hope my ex finds happiness in life. Story 18. To be fair, he was probably asexual, even if the term did not exist back then. We had a normal sexual life before the last year together. We were in my new home, which was supposed to be his home too, but he already did not want to sleep there because I had no proper mattress, even though I had a new big couch. I tried to initiate sex and asked him to please be on top this time because before, I did the work and he was still like a starfish. He did not even finish, and this went on for months. It became a screaming match, and he said to me, "Well, you are the one being unsatisfied, so I do not care." He left. I meditated all night, and the next day I left him. He did cry too, and of course, he did not understand why I left him after 8 years and feeling blindsided. We had other problems too, but this was the last straw. Story 19. He was extremely mean to me after I found out he cheated on me. I hung out with some friends I had not seen in a while and realized there are people who genuinely enjoy my company. After that, I stopped begging him to care. I was done. Story 20. He came back home completely intoxicated, looking for a fight while I was pregnant. He took all my belongings and left the same night. Story 21. When I realized that my ex could give me what I wanted and asked, he just did not want to. He easily gave it to others while I had to beg for it even to be considered. It was one of these small incidents, but it did the trick. Story 22. While holding our baby, he called me offensive names and a terrible mother because I wanted to leave briefly for a coffee by myself. He was about to put the baby down for a nap. Story 23. Disappeared during a party with my car keys. Ended up taking a taxi home alone that night. Got my car and my dignity back very quickly. Story 24. I was doing all the giving, mentally, emotionally, and financially. Absolutely nothing or very little was given back to me. Everything was more important than me. Asking to catch up felt like I was asking for world peace. The manipulative mother did everything for him as if he were 5 years old so she could control it all. Story 25. I realized that I told myself multiple times that if she crossed line 10, I was done. She crossed multiple lines, and I think the final straw was me coming to the realization that I was losing self-respect for consistently turning a blind eye to boundaries that were important to me. Be true to yourself. Story 26. He couldn't schedule a time to talk things out after a fight. I told him my availability, but he didn't tell me his. Apparently, 5 days wasn't enough time for him to check his calendar. The fight happened after I opened up to him about a time I reported my former teacher for grooming me. He was unsupportive, I grew paranoid of his character, and he became emotionally neglectful. I know he's sorry and regrets it all deeply. I know he thinks I hate him, which I don't. I know he's loving but also makes poor decisions. I know his attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, anxiety, and rejection-sensitive dysphoria can be challenging. But also, am I really so unlovable that not even my own boyfriend supported me for speaking up? Story 27. I had the opportunity to leave and took that chance. I was at a concert with my niece and having so much fun. I am a single mother. I realized that I was happy with who I was when he was not around. I fell out of love. Story 28. It was definitely the beginning of the end when we had an argument. She did a lot of overtime leading up to and worked on Christmas Day. Then, on Boxing Day, she slept in because it was her first day off. Our daughters, aged 5 and 3 at the time, were excited to finally spend time with her after barely seeing her for weeks. However, she woke up and went straight out to hang out with friends, barely acknowledging the girls. Story 29. When he finally told me he was testing me most of the time to see if I was loyal, he became very upset when I wanted to end things. Story 30. The relationship was pretty bad and abusive, but I think my final straw was when he was texting someone and I leaned on his shoulder. He proceeded to throw his phone, pin me down, and try to force himself on me. I didn't need to see his phone to know it was over. Story 31. During a fight, he threatened to call the police to have me removed from the house. I was not dangerous. I even had my cat sitting on my lap. Story 32. We were fighting over something I cannot write here because he has a Reddit account too. I was crying my eyes out, and my chest hurt so much I could not even breathe. Felt like my heart was being squeezed. I thought to myself I had never experienced so much pain before. That ugly sensation was caused by the man I am in a relationship with. I never cried, and no one ever hurt me that much when I was single. I do not ever want to feel that way again, especially from someone who loves me. Story 33. When he initiated a date, I felt more anxious because I feared that it would never happen, rather than excited. He has depression, which I know and understand. He initiated a date 7 times in a row but avoided me on the day each time. He never informed me beforehand that he could not make it. Instead, he waited until I texted him and made random excuses to avoid me without apologizing. I knew he was lying, and I told him he could just be honest with me. I would understand and give him space. But he kept lying and avoided apologizing. Now he is back to normal. He asked me to go on a date, and I have been anxious for 3 days straight. Story 34. I've never waited for the final straw. If I had any inkling it wasn't going to work, I was out. I think too many people wait for the final straw and end up in relationships that aren't strong enough to go the distance. Then you end up with drama and, worst of all, missed opportunities. I was dating this girl for about a year, and things were going great until I noticed a few sides to her that gave me pause. So I broke it off. It wasn't easy, but I had to. It hurt me, it hurt her, but it was the right thing to do. A couple of weeks later, I met my wife, whom I wouldn't have met if I was still toying around with my former girlfriend. We have been together for 24 wonderful years. Don't wait for the final straw. Story 35. When we moved across the world, I gave up everything, only to find out that she cannot show me affection in her current position at work. Somehow, that prevents her from showing it at home. Story 36. Friend kept accusing me of trying to break up his marriage to the girl he was cheating on. He did it one too many times, and I told him to never contact me again. Story 37. We had broken up and gotten back together multiple times. In retrospect, it was a toxic relationship, but in those relationships, when things are great, they are really awesome. You hold on to that. My daughter, who was 11 at the time, had been away from Monday to Friday on a school trip and had a rough time away from her parents. She missed us and cried on the phone. I told my then partner I wouldn't see her on the weekend because I wanted to spend quality time alone with my daughter. Her mother and I share custody 50-50. That week, it was my daughter's turn with me. I had not seen her the week before, I hadn't seen her Monday to Friday that week, and I was not going to see her the next week. I only had that weekend. My partner had a meltdown when I asked for the weekend alone with my kids. In the middle of the rant, she called me a sick father. The moment I heard those words, I knew it was over for good. There was no turning back. I have many faults, of course, but I am certain I am not a bad father. I am proud of the relationship I have with my kids. I was not letting anyone tell me how I must proceed with them. Not her, not my family, not even their mother, although she has never criticized me on this subject. So that was it. Story 38. When I wanted to relax alone for one weekend after spending every minute not at work with my ex for a few weeks, she decided to fly to another country to meet another man who was interested in her. I also later found out she cheated on me that weekend. When she was about to fly back, she literally asked me to entertain the other man while she was on the plane. Story 39. I felt very insecure for several reasons and deleted any not safe for work pictures of me, but kept some safe for work ones, and he flipped out. He kept saying he did not only see me sexually, but he never asked follow-up questions about me and my life. When I proposed trying to connect by talking more frequently or doing shared activities together, he declined. It seemed like he really did only care about having access to me in that way. Even when I asked him about his needs in a relationship, the only things he listed were privacy and being intimate with me weekly. Story 40. My ex-wife said she was going to have sex with anybody she wanted to, and I was not man enough to stop her. Story 41. Being accused of cheating was absolute nonsense. Arguments would come out of nowhere. It just was not worth it. I was in line at Smoothie King when I decided to end it through a text. I did not want to deal with it anymore. Story 42. We were arguing almost non-stop. I knew she had hormone problems, which made her extremely prone to mood swings, but the night she physically attacked me was the last straw. Oddly, we have stayed friends since we split up over 23 years ago. Story 43. She preferred to draw herself and her fictional crush instead of celebrating our second anniversary. Then she had the courage to claim I was not meeting her needs. I had felt unloved for a long time, but whenever I tried to talk about it, I was met with the excuse, I just am like that. Then she suggested a breakup and later corrected herself, saying, no, I meant break, not breakup. But frankly, I had no intention of getting back with her. Story 44. He had anger issues, and one time we were fighting, he grabbed my wrist and did not let go. That was it for me. I did not want to stay and find out if that was going to escalate or not. Story 45. He wanted to be polyamorous, and I could not do that. I was going to have a nervous breakdown, and he revealed his horrible nature as a covert narcissist. Story 46. I pretended to like the thing because I wanted you not to leave me. That felt like a betrayal. I shared the things because I liked them, and it seemed to me that they liked them. The confession made me feel like I was actually annoying or draining them with the things. Imagine building a relationship upon something they pretended to like just because I was giving them attention. Story 47. I am not responsible for your happiness. I said when I was trying to open up about how I was not feeling happy in the relationship. Story 48. When he stopped talking to me for 2 to 3 months completely without any reason and suddenly one day texted and blamed me for everything. Before, he used to do this for about 4 to 7 days and I still stayed. Story 49. I guess this wasn't a real relationship since we never actually officially dated. We were just best friends who did everything together and secretly did couple things together, being each other's automatic plus ones. Our entire friendship situation started in the psychiatric ward, which was a red flag. We were both patients. For the 4 years we were involved, though I didn't realize it at the time, he was grooming me to be someone he would eventually settle for. Basically, I was his entire life until he found someone else to obsess over for a few weeks. Then he would go low to no contact, get rejected or have an argument, break up, then come back to me and love bomb. During the weeks he was away, I would make leaps in therapy. Everyone was proud of me for my progress. Then he'd come back and I would relapse. That went on for 4 years. Everything had been falling apart for a bit, but neither of us really wanted to let go. It was extremely toxic, codependent, very controlling, and, though hard to admit, abusive. He would sabotage my relationships and friendships. He would say he supported me but never let me pursue my own goals and manipulated me into prioritizing him above myself. The last straw that broke the camel's back was when he disappeared again, this time for longer than usual. Despite all the codependency and control, by using his presence and absence as control tactics, he unwittingly trained me to get used to his absence. He accidentally showed me how much better my life was without him. I realized I was transgender. Being my best friend, I assumed he would support me like he always did. But he said, "I will only ever see you as a woman." He tried to use my diagnosis of borderline personality disorder to tell me I didn't know who I was and that my self-image was unstable because of it, and that he knew me better than I knew myself. I realized how irrational that was when, despite my horrific trauma history that never broke her professional composure, my therapist's jaw dropped as soon as I explained that. A few weeks later, I said my final goodbye. The kicker is, 2 years after I removed him from my life, my psychiatrist told me I no longer fit the diagnostic criteria for borderline personality disorder. Not only did I get rid of a 200-pound dead weight on my emotional, mental, and social health, but I also got rid of a personality disorder. Good riddance, you pest. Story 50. The one that sticks out for me is a lack of respect for women. This trait did not rear its ugly head all the time, and it was never done in an aggressive manner. It had more of a trying to be funny, condescending edge, but it left a bitter aftertaste because some jokes can hold an element of truth. This was finally revealed when he wanted to start decorating the house. He had obviously not done much decorating before, but I had, so I figured no problem. I would just take the lead on what we needed to buy in the process. However, he would not have it and did not want to listen to me. Now, I am not a feminist, but his ignorance, thinking that women are in some way stupid, too precious for certain jobs, and that my mind could add no value to the relationship, was beyond crazy to me because I am an insanely practical woman who is not afraid to get my hands dirty. So if you are a man dismissing that part of me, you are actually dismissing a huge chunk of who I am. I needed a man who would value me for who I am, to walk alongside him and work through problems together. Fast forward a couple of years, and I met the man who would become my husband. He is an engineer, and he loves that we take on projects around the house together, that he can come home, discuss work problems with me, and I can keep up. Story 51. I started drinking to escape my reality. A few months in, I realized that was not a solution, just another problem. There was no way back from there on. Took a while to complete the divorce and regain my life. Message to my younger self. Do not marry a narcissist regardless of how good-looking she is. Story 52. There was no final straw per se, but one day I just stopped caring. I was in an abusive relationship for 3 years and I could not get out. Thankfully, one day, I told her to leave and had no emotions about it. She did sit on my doorstep for 2 days straight, though. Story 53. I said, "It is difficult being a single parent when you are married because you just want to go out all the time. Keep it up and you will become one," was the response. I left that day. Story 54. He actually ended it, but the computer game addiction, him texting his brother and sister-in-law screenshots of our texts when we were fighting, them creating responses he would send back to me, his keeping Google Home cameras recording in places where we had sex or I was not fully clothed, him twisting everything I said, him accusing me of poisoning him for using Worcestershire sauce in something. He had an aversion to fish, and I genuinely did not know it was fish-based. Oh, and after a bad fight, he disappeared for 24 hours even though we lived together because his other brother flew out to make sure he was okay. So he stayed at a hotel with him. Who in the world does this? Story 55. The first time was when he sexually assaulted me for the last time. I was emotionally numb and did not want to deal with it anymore. The final situation occurred when he lunged at me twice while his elderly mother, who has Parkinson's disease and dementia, was in the room. I packed my belongings and left immediately. Story 56. I had spent 6 years quietly trying to help her with her alcoholism and depression. When my own depression came towards the end of our relationship, she said, "I don't want to deal with this forever." Story 57. My ex-husband had anger issues and constantly gave me the silent treatment after we married. I knew it was a mistake to marry him but was too afraid to break it off. I did love him. I left once after a few months but went back. Then my younger sister died, and I realized I was miserable and this was the only life I had. I was messed up, but being alone sounded much better than being treated poorly. He admitted once I left for good that he had hidden his political beliefs and values from me. I never knew the man I was married to. I had another not-so-good long-term relationship but then met the love of my life. Unfortunately, he died of cancer a few years ago. I have been in quite a few awful short-term relationships, and I have finally given up. I have to admit being alone and emotionally and physically safe is very important. One narcissist really helped me get away from him after he admitted he really loved upsetting me. He forgot he had admitted that, so I told him, "It's me, not you," to get rid of him. Story 58. My partner was partying a lot during the coronavirus pandemic. He was 50 years old, and the partying was already an issue, but it became even more problematic because he never attended apartment or house parties before the pandemic. Only during the pandemic did he start doing this. That spiteful behavior was a turnoff from the beginning. I asked him not to bring people over, which was a simple request. That night, I woke up at 1 a.m. and found complete strangers in the house. We broke up right there in front of his new friends. Story 59. I caught him trying to send inappropriate messages to someone barely of legal age. It has made me see people differently now. This shows the man's desperation for attention. Fortunately, he has never been in a relationship before, and my intuition told me to run. He is now married to his third partner. She has no idea about half the things he has done in his life, and he continues to chat with and manipulate women daily while still married. His wife knows nothing about who this man truly is. He has stalked and surveilled many women for years, even attempting to move in next door to a woman he stalked for 18 years. Cyber violence is his method. He enjoys verbally abusing women whenever he has the chance, always trying to remain unseen and anonymous. He is cowardly and may strike at any moment. She hired a private investigator to obtain his address to serve him legal papers. Story 60. She poked me in the eye with her soda straw because I was staring at the cashier for too long. I was not. Story 61. She went to a work party at a hotel that was supposed to be over at 9. I did not hear from her until after 11. When she texted, she just told me she made it to her room. I realized that if the roles were reversed, there is no way that would fly without me explaining what happened. Tired of double standards and love bombing, I walked away. Story 62. We had been together for over 4 years, and there were quite a few problems during the last year or so. We were always fighting, usually about something important related to me. For example, he picked me up from the airport and started an argument about an Instagram story I posted of a boy I had restricted, or we argued on my birthday and birthday party. He wouldn't defend me from comments his friends made and got annoyed when I said something. He said he would talk to them, but that never happened. His family liked preparing gift bags with food for me, which I appreciated. After a while, I found myself throwing away lots of food because the amount they gave was enough for a family of 4, not a person living alone. I asked him to at least check the bags before coming over, but he wasn't able to do that. We had also been on 2 breaks. The first was caused by a fight at a party, where his friend said something and he refused to talk to him. The second was because I was done and needed to know if I still felt anything for him. While on those breaks, he would text me constantly or send me memes, but he never watched or read the ones I sent him when we weren't on a break. He also never bothered to learn my native language until it was too late. I started to develop feelings for my current boyfriend a few months before I broke up with my ex. Nothing happened with him until after the previous relationship ended. I still tried to fight for my last relationship because I didn't want to feel more conflicted or confused if the decision to break up arose. On the day we broke up, he brought a bag of food from his house with the same groceries he had bought for me earlier that week. It was very difficult because he then claimed I never loved him, stalked me, texted all my friends, and his family sent me insulting messages. When my current boyfriend and I started dating, his father recorded us on his dashcam. I stayed with him as long as I did because I had been planning his 25th birthday for 2 years and wanted to celebrate it with him. That did not happen. I am much happier now. Story 63. When I realized that no matter what we did or how much we tried or did not try, the universe and life were never going to let our souls align. Real love, unconditional love, cannot form when neither person is capable of loving the other properly and at the same time. When the relationship was good, it was beautiful, but when it was bad, it was very ugly. We could never see eye to eye, and the communication was non-existent. However, we cared deeply for each other, and the potential for a lasting love was always there. It just did not unravel the way it was supposed to. Story 64. When he yelled at me in public and called me a fat insult for the second time, then threatened, "Don't make me put you in your place again." This was a year after he beat me up. People always ask why I didn't leave after he hit me. It is so hard to get out of an abusive cycle when you love someone and believe in them. Breaking a trauma bond is nearly impossible. For some reason, after that last public outburst, I realized it was just who he was, and it wasn't just the alcohol. I am now free. Story 65. I supported this man for a year while he was living in a warehouse that his friend was letting him stay in for free. I was helping him with his work, bringing him flowers, food, and candles so it felt like a home. I warned him when his friend was going to kick him out. I told him to keep going and not give up because something was coming soon. Then I introduced him to my friend who hired him and ended up giving him an apartment above a spa in the city. My partner started saying he was going to pay himself 6 figures and telling me I needed to be on board with having 3-way relationships with my friend's employees. He was also telling me things like, "It's your birthday in a few weeks. We're going to use the spa, hang out, have dinner there, and celebrate." When he moved into the penthouse above the spa, he literally disappeared. Of course, I called my friend who hired him and asked why my partner was ranting about paying himself 6 figures and 3-way relationships, then just disappeared. My friend said, "I was just playing 5-dimensional chess. Isn't this the best thing that ever happened to you?" My ex kept sending me emails saying he didn't want to break up, that he never dumped me, that he loved what we were building, and that I was just being mean to him and he needed space. Meanwhile, he had a girl at the place my friend gave him to stay at while he was working for him. He brought this other girl to the spot and did everything for her that he said he was going to do for me for my birthday. I had a front row seat for what a terrible person he really is, and I'm still recovering because I didn't have much dating experience, and that was brutal, especially considering we were happy before he even got any opportunities. Honestly, I'm way too nice, but he would probably tell you that I'm a monster. Story 66. An incident occurred where the police were called on him, resulting in my neighbors complaining to the landlord, who threatened to evict me if it happened again. A noise complaint was made to the local council, and my boss called me into a meeting to inform me that I could no longer take paid time off for sick or emergency leave, as I had taken too many days off due to my partner being an abusive alcoholic. I called him and told him he could not come to my home until he had been sober for at least 6 weeks. He chose alcohol over me. Ironically, he was drunk at the time of the phone call and could not remember our breakup, becoming confused when I reminded him we were no longer together. He wanted to get back together, but after nearly 8 years, I was finally done. Story 67. He had a car accident 2 months before our breakup and did not inform me. On the night of our breakup, he accused me of cheating and said he was on the way to my apartment to catch me in the act. He never showed up and 7 hours later texted me a picture of his damaged car. I checked the date it was taken, sent it back to him, and then blocked him. Story 68. Knowing that no matter what I told her about how toxic she was, she would end up going around with someone else, whether it was a friend's boyfriend or cheating on her new boyfriend. I knew that whether or not I ended the relationship or shamed her, she would never change or feel remorse for how she acted. That's when I learned to ignore other people's issues and decisions and focus on making myself happy. The last thing I found out was that she had gone out with her more attractive friend and ended up in a threesome with another guy who was younger and more fit back in college. She then bought emergency contraception afterward, which I found out about on her phone. Deep down, I was jealous that the guy got to experience that, and I was upset that I wasn't making myself just as happy or lucky. I never want to play detective with anyone or be with someone who has any addiction or bad habits that hurt me mentally. Story 69. When he made his mother and friend his power of attorney and backup over his healthcare decisions instead of his wife of 14 years, I didn't technically leave, but my heart left him that day. He died 2 months later. Story 70. I was in a relationship for about 5 years. What made me finally leave was the growing feeling that we never really knew each other. Our conversations were always light, like what to eat, how the day went, or random small talk, but we never went deeper. There were no real talks about our values, fears, or what we actually wanted out of life. I started feeling lonely even when we were together. I needed more than just routine. I needed connection, depth, and to feel truly understood. When I realized that was not going to happen, I knew it was time to let go. Story 71. She said I had to stop waiting outside her workplace and following her home. She threatened to call the police. I don't need that kind of drama in my life. Story 72. Many little things ultimately added up to him not listening to or prioritizing my needs, but the final straw was when he came back from a month-long trip with mononucleosis and complained about the precautions I asked for to keep myself from catching it. I have multiple risk factors for autoimmune conditions and did not want to add an Epstein-Barr virus infection to that list, so these precautions were extremely important to me, not just for a few months of being unwell but for a lifetime of health issues. When I finally broke up with him, he complained that I had never said any of the issues I raised were deal breakers and thus I was being unfair in breaking up with him over them. Story 73. I needed a wallet-sized photo of myself for something else and had to print 2 copies. I left one on the table and told him he could have it if he wanted. Later, I found it still on the table, rolled up into a tube that he used to snort a pill. Story 74. I couldn't even nap without him needing my assistance or input on chores. We did the same tasks every time. I realized that if I stayed, I would have to hold his hand for everything all the time, and I was done. Story 75. I had already been pushed to my limit, but it was 2 days after Valentine's Day. My ex was upset about coming to see me on our first and only Valentine's Day, and we got into a fight about something unclear. I reminded him that my recent health issues were due to his irresponsibility, as he manipulated or removed a condom, which forced me to have an abortion. His only response was that I accused him of killing our child. So I packed my things, left his apartment, and started walking down the sidewalk. A few feet away, I had an overwhelming urge to turn back. I knocked on the door, he answered, and I broke up with him then and there. Story 76. I gave him a job and a home. He had none of those and claimed that was what made him depressed. After that, he didn't take any initiatives to meet up. He never took me out. He said he would do that when he got a job. I was always the one paying before that. I had enough and told him I needed more initiative from him or it was over. He responded by almost ghosting me, and when I confronted him, he said, "I have been sick." He didn't even have the common cold. He had a stomach ache. Anyway, he was fired from his job about a week later because he wasn't good at it. He called in sick for over a week without a doctor's note and apparently also lied on his resume. So, good luck to him on becoming an adult, I guess. Story 77. When I was 28, I was facing the loss of a testicle due to an unknown mass inside my right testicle. Somehow, it turned into her concern about having children and my fertility. The argument ended with her saying, "I hope your other testicle gets infected." In 30 seconds flat, I learned what it meant when someone says they have lost all feelings for someone. Yes, I did right there. Story 78. When I listened to or saw other people's relationships where they did normal things as couples, I realized my ex-boyfriend of 3 years, unfortunately, would never do them or would get irrationally angry if I brought them up. For example, doing hobbies together or fun activities. I liked knitting and asked if he wanted to try and learn for fun. He said it was stupid and that he would be bad at it. I wanted to give him a little makeover, and he said, skincare and makeup are gross. Keep in mind, he worked as a scare actor and wore makeup a lot. Also, he told me that being emotional on my period isn't an excuse. I tried to tell him there's a biological reason women get moody, and he dismissed it. I asked him to treat me nicer on my period or even bring me chocolate and flowers, and he said I don't deserve it because it's just like any other week. He was very toxic overall, but I think I realized how abnormal our relationship was compared to others. Story 79. The girl would initiate sex but was completely unresponsive during the act, just looking me in the eyes. We went on vacation, and the bedroom at the Airbnb had blackout curtains. We went to bed. She snuggled up against me, which turned me on. Then she just laid there. It felt as if I was with a lifeless body. That ended the relationship for me. After we got home from vacation, I ended it. Story 80. Disappeared during a party with my car keys. Ended up taking a taxi home alone that night. Got my car and my dignity back very quickly. Story 81. I asked them to stop comparing me to my abuser, but they kept doing it anyway. This is the third time it has happened for me. Story 82. She threw a bottle of bleach at my head after trying to stab me. I guess it was both, really. With another girlfriend, I found out that I was the other guy. I am not sure if that counts since, was it really a relationship when I was the other guy? Edit. Not that I would have been okay with there being another guy as long as I was the main one, but it felt extra messed up that I was the other guy since I have a long history of being against cheating. Story 83. My friend ended a relationship that lasted 5 years. The last 2 years of their relationship were terrible. They had not had sex for a year, and he would sometimes stay away from home for a month, using work and business trips as excuses. Story 84. I wish I did not have to get you drunk or make you take drugs to make you have sex with me. He force-fed me and assaulted me, then somehow made himself the victim. I mentally checked out of the relationship and started avoiding him after I had reached a safer living situation. Story 85. Was not given much of a choice after a difficult few months, little effort on his part, and being ignored for a few weeks. All of this was disappointing because I wanted to grow old with him. Story 86. When I realized she stopped appreciating anything I did for her, no thanks, no acknowledgement, nothing. I saw that she would give much more of her time and energy to people who either did nothing for her or made her life harder. Story 87. I realized that if I stayed with him, I would be miserable, and if we got married, I would get divorced. I left him. Now I am happily married to my best friend and soulmate. Story 88. I will speak on behalf of the boy I dated. I was going to be busy the entire day, and knowing that he often looked forward to our daily chats, I sent him an innocent meme to cheer him up since he always started the day feeling bad. Moments later, he threatened to block me. Apparently, he thought I was assaulting him or something. Even after explaining my side, it was obvious from his indifferent responses that he was done. I hope he feels regretful that he broke up over a meme. After that, I swore never to date boys with communication and anger management issues. Story 89. He asked me, "Can I pay you $500 for every girl I sleep with from now on?" He was determined to keep me around too. Story 90. Trust. I did not have enough trust in her to keep it going. I always felt she was cheating. There was no proof that she was, but once that trust is broken, there is no going back. Story 91. I went home to my family for a few weeks and was told how lucky she was to have me, for all the effort I put in for her. When I got back home, I felt like I had intruded on the nice time she was having without me. I felt completely unwelcome in my own home. It made me feel like an idiot. I was so exhausted by the daily effort. And for what? Story 92. When a friend asked him when we were going to get married, I'll never forget the look of horror on his face. Story 93. When he said he was not willing to compromise on our living situation after I sacrificed everything to move to his town. Story 94. I took a vacation by myself to rent a recreational vehicle. The time I had away from her and her children made me feel at peace. I recognized we were in a codependent addiction. As soon as I said the words out loud over the phone, the feeling for me naturally ended it. I am glad I left her. That was pure hell for 2 years. Story 95. The final straw always seems insignificant when I think of it because it was just one more small thing on a pile of 100 small things. Story 96. A few months from our 10-year anniversary. Not engaged, not married, no children. I had a son from a previous relationship. He underwent a complete personality change over the course of a year and was very difficult to be around. Slamming doors easily triggered. I discovered he was abusing Adderall and most likely using methamphetamine. Due to the stress, I stopped eating and ended up weighing 98 pounds at 30 years old. I finally realized I had spent 10 years with someone who did not care about me. I was just a girlfriend who went above and beyond for someone who did not even notice me withering away in despair. Story 97. I had started to question the reality of who I was. Waking up and feeling like you had already done something worthy of causing an argument is exhausting. If it did not happen since I had woken, something I had done before I knew him was reason enough. To be honest, something just clicked. He had again shown me something he called evidence of my disloyalty. My reading list on Goodreads, and asked, "What is this?" Right then, I decided I was just too tired to do it all again the next day. Story 98. She wanted to bail out of a long-planned event. When I called her out on that, I said I didn't like the way she wanted to bail because we both were looking forward to it. She got mad at me and asked how I dared to speak about her that way. After a lot of reasoning from my side and her still being mad, I suddenly shouted, "I want to die." That's when I knew this toxic relationship was hurting me from the inside. We did the event, had fun, and she acted like nothing happened. The next day, she moved out. Story 99. When I dreaded them coming home from work and would often pretend to be asleep to avoid interacting with them. It was not a fear for safety, just a lack of interest in them. Story 100. She told me she wished I was dead, then flushed my medication down the toilet, among other things. But that was when my eyes opened, and I realized this isn't right. Story 101. She stopped communicating, would not answer my calls, yet still told me she loved me once a week to give me enough hope to stay in it. I was going to fly to visit her, to fight for her. I booked tickets and was going to bed to wake up at 4 a.m. for my flight when I realized, what am I even fighting for? A relationship that has not existed for months? Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.